In the first equation, we're gonna solve for r sub 2. Just a quick reminder about these sub numbers. When you have a little tiny number down here, it's like maybe I have my first radius and my second radius. Since I really wanna use the letter r, I can do r sub 1 and r sub 2. It's just saying the first one and the second one. It's not a multiply by 2, it's just its own individual variable. Okay, so now, my big picture strategy is always, if you see an equation that has a fraction, immediately multiply both sides by the denominator, and then start deciding what you're trying to get by itself. So in this one, I see the denominator s. So I'm going to multiply both sides by s. When I multiply the left side by s, it gets rid of this s, and so I'm left with what's in the numerator. Let's bring down the equal sign, and then over here I have 8 times s. Finally, I'm going to start looking at what is it I'm trying to get by itself, which is r sub 2. There's a couple ways that you could go about it, but if you can remember that solving an equation really is undoing PEMDAS. So you're doing what's inside parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So you're going backwards. So the very last thing you're going to worry about is what's inside parentheses. So I'm not going to worry about right now what's inside of parentheses. I'm going to get rid of this multiply by 5. So to get rid of multiply by 5, I'm going to divide by 5. What I do to one side, I do to the other. And so here on the left side, this 5 gets rid of this 5, and I'm left with r sub 1 minus r sub 2 equals, and then I have this fraction, 8 times s over 5. Finally, to finish getting r sub 1 by itself, we're just subtracting r sub 2 from it. So to get rid of minus r sub 2, I'm going to add r sub 2. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So by adding r sub 2 to both sides, I'm going to end up, or excuse me, ooh, my bad. That was a terrible, my bad. I realize I'm getting r sub 2 by itself, so my bad. I need to get rid of this r sub 1. I didn't show very many steps, but the fastest way here to make that happen is I'm going to add over r sub 2. Does it make sense why I would want to add it over? What does that avoid? Yeah, it avoids the negative. So by adding over r sub 2, it's here, and then I'll subtract over the fraction. So I have r sub 1 minus this fraction. I could have subtracted r sub 1, but then I would still have a negative r sub 2, and I'd have to multiply both sides by negative 1, which I think would be more effort. Okay, so since I really wanted a positive r sub 2, I added the r sub 2 and then subtracted the fraction over. Okay, so one more time here. This one, as soon as I see a fraction, I'm going to multiply both sides by the denominator. So I'm going to multiply by u minus 8. Okay, and when I do that, it gets rid of the u minus 8 right here, and I'm left with s minus t. Bring down my equals, and I now have r times u minus 8. If you decide to distribute the r through because you see something in front of parentheses and you feel compelled to distribute, you can do that and then continue solving. But if you stick with the idea that you're undoing PEMDAS and I'm trying to get u by itself, I'm going to worry about what's inside parentheses last. So if I'm getting this u by itself, I'm going to get rid of this multiply by r. To do that, I'm going to divide by r. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So this r gets rid of this r, and u minus 8 is by itself. I'm going to bring the equal sign down, and then I have this fraction. To get rid of the minus 8, I'm going to add 8 to both sides. And so then u is going to be by itself, and when I add 8 to the fraction, I have this fraction plus 8.